Hi, my name is Jim Herrington. I'm with Mission Houston in Houston, Texas, and I've been asked to share one or two things that I wish I had known when I started ministry 35 years ago that I could share with some younger men or women who are in ministry today. There are a lot of things that I thought about, but the primary thing that has really shaped and driven my life, especially over the last 15 or 20 years, is the pursuit of the question, what's a disciple of Jesus and how do you make one? Dallas Willard put me onto that when he wrote his book, The Divine Conspiracy, in a way that I had never been put onto it before. In my work with Mission Houston, we have spent an enormous amount of time and energy and effort trying to ask and answer the question, how do you make a disciple? One of the things we've come to be convinced of is that the churches in our culture today simply aren't capable of making the kind of disciples that produce the life that Jesus lived. I'm not saying that there aren't some people who are disciples that come out of our churches, but as a standard practice, churches don't produce people who look and act and have the kind of impact that Jesus had. And the conviction that I have about that is that though churches 100 years ago, churches 50 years ago, churches that were planted a year ago might look different in terms of some of their external clothing that they wear, internally there is an underlying mental model of how you make disciples that hadn't changed in all that time. And so I want to talk to you about three mental models that have been unfolding and unearthed for me over this 20-year period of time that I've been on this journey, that I think until we ask and answer these questions, until you ask and answer these questions for yourself, we're going to continue to produce disciples who look more like the culture than they do like Jesus. One of the underlying mental models is that we have this compartmentalization between the sacred and the secular. Sacred is over here, it's church and quiet time and mission trips and Bible study, and work is over here, and really we separate the two. And what we've taught people to do is to go to work and be a good witness and be a moral person, and if you can lead people to Christ, then you bring them to church. Now, what we're doing in our disciple-making work at Mission Houston is that we're really intentionally demolishing that barrier by saying that one of the end games that we're after in a disciple-making process is that people would mobilize the body of Christ to make disciples in the place where they spend the most of their time. And so out of our ministry we have the church at Kirby Corporation, a publicly held maritime transportation corporation. We have the church at Gregory Lincoln Elementary School. We have the church at 5th Street, which is an impoverished community in Stafford, Texas, outside of Houston. In all of those places, people who spend 8-10 hours a day there have mobilized other Christians to do the work of the church. And the consequence of that is not only are they becoming more and more like Jesus, but they're having more and more impact on the world that they live in. Here's a second underlying assumption that I think has to be challenged, and it is that information transforms. All of the disciple-making processes, systems, and structures that are in most of the churches that are out there are information-based. It's about preaching and teaching. It's about giving people information, and we believe that somehow if they have enough information, they're going to be transformed. Even though there's no evidence that that is actually what happens, when it doesn't work, then what we do is we revise the way we present information, or we intensify the way that we present information, or we figure out some other way, but what we do is we still focus on the information. Jesus didn't do that. Jesus focused on experience. He lived with 12 guys. He sent them out 2 by 2 to have experience, and our disciple-making processes essentially don't have any experience base to them. They have an information base. I'm not saying that preaching and teaching is unimportant. I'm saying it's not enough. And mostly we don't know how to create the systems and structures that would make it possible for people who are getting the information that we're preaching and teaching to actually have experience applying that and mastering the things we're teaching them in their lives. The third thing that I would say is, again, at the mental model level, is that we have a very unempowering relationship with failure. Tell me anything that you've learned to do in life, whether it's to run a marathon, play some sporting event, play a musical instrument, teach a class, whatever it is that you've learned to do that by trying and failing and reflecting on that failure and then trying some more. And We call it the information practice reflection circle. You get some information, you go practice it, and then you reflect on what you learned, both from your failures and your successes. And again, our discipling models don't have any of that in the process. Mission Houston has a leadership. Our mission is to develop missional leaders and to deploy them to the systems and structures in the world, schools, businesses, neighborhoods, office places. In the mix of that, we've created a series of systems and structures that include information, that include coaching and accountability, that include homework where people actually get out and practice the things that we have to master as Christians. And I wish that I had known all of that 25 years ago. I wish I had known that you can't make disciples by getting them to come to church and giving them information, leaving the sacred and secular compartmentalization in place, and never having a place where they could try and fail and reflect on their failure and learn from that.